Howdy everybody, Wayne here. Now this is kind of more of a serious video I'm going to be doing today. It's kind of a tell-all what happened to me and why I'm kind of making this video. Now, about 3-4 years ago, I'm a little iffy on it's been a while, but I was red flagged by Washington State, where I live at. Now, for me, it was an extremely scary experience at first, but luckily, in the end, I got through it, and luckily to say, the Washington State Superior Court reversed the order, gave me all of my rifles, my firearms, everything back, and determined it was unconstitutional order. Now, this is kind of me trying to warn people and let people know that this can happen to literally anybody. I'm a business owner, I got a clean background, I haven't even had a speeding ticket in 10 years, yet the state found it necessary to red flag me and take my firearms away from me for 18 months. Now, it is a pretty crazy story as far as the situation and how this all played out and why it happened and all this, so bear with me. I might get some details wrong, but I'm going to try to keep it all within what I remember. I have all the court documents still and all the nonsense, but it's been 4 or 5 years, so this is just off the top of my head. But luckily, I won in court, took 18 months and $30,000 in attorney fees in order for me to get my rights back and the order reversed, which to the normal American can't really afford that. Luckily, I had deeper pockets than the judge assumed, and I was able to take it all the way to the top. And I was willing to even go all the way to the United States courts, whatever they're called, superior courts or whatever it is. Anyway, so situation was, I am a recreational marijuana farmer, right? Now you're gonna think, okay, here we go, drugs, guns, all this kind of, no, that wasn't the situation at all. So I'm a recreational marijuana farmer out of my property. So we're out here growing for a whole season. I was out here just because this is going to be my first year ever growing. But prior to this, there were people out here renting on the property, growing their own marijuana, and I would just walk around the property, shoot the shit with people, and just maintain my own house and just live over on my own little property while everybody else did their own growing and everything. And so while that was going on, they occasionally would have little get-togethers and stuff. Now, mind you, this is all my property, everything. I rent out to them. That's how it works. So they're renting from me. I'm in charge of everything. And so I would just walk around, shoot the shit with people, make sure, hey, your dogs aren't running around, going on other people's farms, killing people's rabbits and stuff, because I had a few rabbits and stuff, and other people had smaller animals. And one person had a dog that would get out of their farm and go and kill one of my rabbits. Anyway, it was just like, hey, keep your stuff separate. We don't want animals intertwining and anybody, start shit. It was all going great for a year and a half. And the one day I'm at my house and I'm just hanging out, just chilling with my animals, playing a little Xbox because I'm a nerd. And I hear people talking. And I'm like, that's weird. It's like 8 o'clock. Why do I hear talking? So I grab my pistol, go outside, walk over, because where they were at, where I was hearing the talking, was probably like a football field away, right? Because I could hear like yelling and all this through my walls. What the fuck is that? Why do I hear music and stuff? So I go outside, I'm hanging out, I'm like, okay, what's going on? So I see people and I'm like, okay, this is sketchy, but I'm like, well, there might be people I know, so let me just go over there. I'm not gonna go over there all guns blazing. So I walk over, hey, what's going on? Well, it turns out it's a few of the growers and they're having a little get together. Now, I don't remember them ever inviting me to a get together or anything, but this is on my property. And they're having like a barbecue and getting drunk and stuff. Now, for me, I don't drink, and I don't appreciate people drinking. Now, I'm not the one who's gonna come break a party up. I was like, hey guys, okay, cool, you guys are doing your thing. I don't want to hang out for this. You guys can finish doing what you're doing and just call it early night. And they're like, no, hey man, why don't you hang out with us? Why don't you freaking, drink some with us? Why don't you fucking eat some barbecue? And I'm like, no, I don't drink. You guys know that, but I'll have a chicken wing or whatever, sure. So I'm hanging out, talking, shooting the shit. Now, mind you, one of the people there is, at the time, my best friend. So this is somebody who comes over to my house every day. I've been to his house multiple times. He's got 2 kids. We all hang out together. His kids come over and play with my animals. They run around and, burn fires in the fire pit and stuff and all this kind of stuff while we're out working. And so all of a sudden, he's like, hey, I don't know what was going on, but we start talking about, the wars and stuff. And there was a Polish guy there. And he was like 60 years old, maybe 50. No, he was probably 50 because he was a grower out there and he apparently owned one of the licenses. And the same names, but he was renting from me at the time. And I'll explain this to you. He owed me about $40,000 in fucking rent, too, that he hadn't paid me over the year. But I'm a nice guy, and it being the marijuana industry and not very many people getting their foot off the ground, I was like, hey, it's no big deal. I'll chill with the $40,000 you owe me. And so now he's on my property, drunk, hanging out, shooting the shit with people while he still owes me a ton of cash. And so now we're talking about the military. And I don't know what was prescribed back and forth, but I think he started talking about the U.S. I was like, hey, defend the U.S. The U.S. Helped everybody. Anyway, it's stupid politics stuff, right? Now I have my pistol on me at the time. They're all drinking and stuff, but I'm on my own property, and I'm cautious because every time I've been around people who are fucking drinking, stupid shit happens. So regardless, I'm like, okay, I'm on my own property. I'm just gonna chill and make sure all these people go away, and then I'm just gonna clean up all this shit because I don't want a bunch of beer bottles around in case one breaks and I don't want my dog stepping on it. So I'm hanging out, just chilling, and I got my dogs there, and one of the people there, there's the wife, my best friend and his wife, and his 2 kids, and then there was 2 other individuals, a man and his wife, the 60 or 50-year-old and his wife who was like 50, 60, and then there was another random individual who was like 40 years old, and he had a bigger dog, and his dog actually bit my dog while we were there. Now, being the nice guy, I was like, okay, well, I'll go put my dog up. So I went back to my house, I grabbed my car, and I drove over, parked it, and I put my dog in the car. And so I'm hanging out, like, just chilling, no big deal, like, whatever, I'm just gonna, because I don't like my dogs being away from me. And as I'm just chilling, hanging out, we start talking about politics and stuff. And so as the politics start kicking off, the Polish guy gets aggressive with me. Now I have my pistol on me, and I got my car over here. And you can read it in the court documents. Everybody else verified this. I said, okay, I'll disarm myself, because he started to get pissed off at me. He's like, okay, well, I'm going to beat your ass. And I was like, okay, well, I'll disarm myself then. I literally go, and I got my best friend standing 3 feet in front of me. I'm like, okay, I'll just take my pistol off real quick, put it on the ground. My best friend will watch it for me, and I guess me and this guy are going to throw hands. Whatever, it's mutual combat. It's legal in Washington State. I guess we're going to have to throw hands right now, because I'm not going to have some guy come up here and start threatening me, because prior to this, as we're talking, he kicks a chair towards me and starts getting aggressive towards me. And I'm like, whoa, dude, you're on my property. I'll disarm myself and we can throw hands. So as I take my pistol off and I put it on the ground, I'm literally setting my shit on the ground like this, putting it all on the ground. My fucking best friend tackles me out of nowhere, takes me to the ground and starts choking me out. Now, at this point, I can still scream, and I'm literally, because he's barely choking me, I'm yelling, I was disarming myself. What are you doing? I'm disarming myself. So at this point, he's still choking me, and he starts getting tighter and tighter. Now I see my fucking, the older lady who was married to that guy I was arguing with, grab my pistol, and she runs off with it. Now at this point, I'm like, okay, they got my gun. Are they going to fucking kill me? What the hell? So at this point, I shrimp out, get out of the chokehold. Now I'm up, and I literally get up, and I brace to get shot. And I'm sitting here like, okay, I'm about to get shot. This is it. I guess I'm dying on my own property. Awesome. So I hit here and embrace. Nothing happens. So I look, and now I got 5 people surrounding me. Well, 4, because the chick was, the older woman was kind of hiding off. But, the wife, the guy, the fucking other guy, and then the other guy are sitting here like this. And the guy's got his dog still barking. Rah, 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 rah. I'm like, okay, it's me 4 versus a dog and some random chick with a pistol at this point. Or my pistol, which is stupid. Don't ever do what I did. But thinking my best friend standing in front of me, I'll just take my pistol off real quick and my friend will watch it for me. Your best friend. Well, don't trust anybody. That was my dumbass mistake. Once again, I'm on my own property, so there shouldn't have been an issue in this. It's like you being on your shooting range and you take off your shit real quick to go and wrestle with your best friend. It's kind of what I thought it was going to be like. Me and this guy are just going to wrestle around again, I guess, and then we'll shake hands afterwards and we'll continue to do, because the guy owes me 40 grand. We're fucking hanging out and fucking work chilling on the property. I don't really give a shit. I've literally help the guy daily with, hey, why isn't my water working? Okay, let me run over and get the water lines hooked up, because the water, I have to have a certain system that goes to all the different farms and splices off like a tree. So sometimes things fail. So I'm constantly having to go and make sure the water's going to everybody, because that was like my main job, was making sure the pumps and the wells that were on my part of the property were feeding everybody's stuff. So aside from that, and we weren't going over our water limits. So at this point, I'm like, okay, I'm going to get shot. So now I brace, okay, nothing happens. So now I'm scanning, ready for the next threat. And I look over on this table, like 30 feet in front of me, where they had all their barbecue stuff laying out in front of a trailer where we have like the little employee shed for people to take a break. It's hot during the summer. I built the whole kitchen for everybody. I put 4 bunk beds in there, lockers for everybody to use and take a break at. And so I see my pistol, and I'm like, okay, sweet. So I fucking just beeline it for my pistol, grab my pistol, put it in my holster, and I button that shit. And I'm like, nope, my pistol is not coming out again. That shit is not getting involved. Because in my mind, the last thing I want to do is create a few orphans or even escalate the situation at this point. Because yes, I'm fearing for my life, but I know well enough that I could probably get out of the situation, because technically Washington State is a flea state. So I don't really actually have the right to stand there and fight them. So I literally button my pistol, I throw my hands up in the air, and I literally say this 100 times. I'm fleeing, I'm leaving, I'm going home. I'm fleeing, I'm leaving, I'm going home. And it hates every being of my body, the fact that I had to do that, but where I live, Washington State, that's what you have to do. So I throw my hands up in the air. I say, I'm fleeing, I'm leaving, I'm going home. I'm fleeing, I'm leaving, I'm going home. So at this point, I'm trying to make it back towards my car, get in my vehicle where my dog is at, and just go home. Now at this point, my dog, Astrid, is losing her mind. She's freaking out. And I'm pretty sure that's why she's got separation anxiety, because prior to that situation, she was fine being alone. Now if I leave, she will tear through doors and get to where I'm at. And so I'm trying to get to my vehicle. Now, at this point, I've got my hands in the air. I'm saying I'm fleeing, I'm leaving, I'm going home, and they've disengaged from me, because at this point, I am like 5 feet away from them. They're kind of trying to mosey the way back because they saw I got my pistol, so they're worried what the fuck I'm gonna do. I put my pistol on my head, and I'm fleeing, I'm leaving, going home, fleeing, I'm leaving, going home. I'm going to my vehicle, I'm fleeing, I'm leaving, going home. Now, my house is like a football field away. But in my mind, I'm like, I don't want to just start running away because my dog's in the car. I don't want to abandon my dog. I got to get to my dog. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, let me just put my hands in the air. I'm exposing myself, but this is legally the only thing I can do. Now, unluckily enough, this is the one part of the property where there are no cameras. Everywhere else where all the marijuana is, there's cameras that look over everything. There's like 20 cameras per farm, actually 11 to 12 cameras per farm. But this one area that's in the center of everything, away from where all the marijuana farms are and everything, is just its own little fucking camper trailer that everybody just, does barbecues at and hangs out at. Now at this point, 3 years later, nobody's out here anymore. Fuck, everybody's gone. Fucking canceled everybody's freaking contracts, canceled all of the rent and everything. I said, screw you guys, you're out. Anyway, back to the story. So at that situation, I'm fleeing, I'm leaving, going home. Now at this point, they come at me again, the older gentleman who I was arguing with and my best friend. So I've got my pistol at this point. I put it back in my holster. And I'm like, okay, I'm fleeing, I'm leaving, going home. Fleeing, I'm leaving, going home. They then re-engage with me, push me against, because his vehicle was parked like this, mine was parked like this, and the table's like over here. They push me from the table onto the van, and they're trying to like pin me on the van. Now at this point, my best friend is now, I wouldn't say best friend, let's just call him Bob. Bob is now grabbing my pistol and trying to pull it out of my holster. Now at this point, I'm like, what the fuck? Why is he trying to grab my pistol? I have my hands in the air. I'm telling him I'm fleeing. Now nobody's throwing punches at this moment. All they're trying to do is get to my pistol. Literally, both of them. Johns has his hand on my pistol. The other guy's like bear hugging me, trying to hold me down, and then trying to grab my pistol from the other side. Now at this point, they're relatively drunk, and I'm sober like always. And so I'm like, okay, I can pretty much think of what I need to do in this situation. So I pretty much just use their weight against them, and I just, instead of pushing, I fall a bit and fall off the vehicle to the right. And so what that happens is they fucking stumble onto the hood, and I fucking fall a little bit, get up, back my back up to my car door, and I got my hand on my car door like this because now they're back right on top of me instantly. One's choking me now. One's got his pistol on my hand on my pistol, and I'm like, okay, the only situation I have here is my dog. So I literally have my hand on the door, and I'm like, I'm going to open this door, and if I open this door and my dog comes out and fucks you up, I'm going to engage. And the second I say that, they both let go of me instantly. I open the passenger door, I get in as fast as I can, turn the car on. Luckily, my old shitty car actually turned on first try. I tell you what, I've never been more fucking worried about a car starting in my life than that moment. It makes all those movies make sense. And start the car. Now I go to back up. Now, what this man and woman have done, if they've put their children behind my fucking vehicle. Now I'm thinking in my head, okay, why does this woman have her kids behind my vehicle knowing that I need to back up down the driveway and go to my house? Because it's like a giant circle. I have a giant, pretty much, racetrack on my property. In the middle is the thing, and then off to the sides my house. Anyway, so I got to drive down that to go to my house. Well, they're blocking me with their children in their front, and then I got 3 people in front of me trying to rush the driver's side to pull me out of the fucking vehicle. Now I'm like, why the fuck are they doing this? I am literally trying to flee. Sorry about my screechy voice. I have a high-pitched voice. And so now I'm like, what the fuck? Why are they trying to do this? This doesn't make any fucking sense to me. Why are they trying to re-engage me for a 3rd time? This just baffles me. So I'm like, okay, I need to back up. Now these kids are behind me. And I'm like, I don't want to run fucking kids over. That's the last thing I want to fucking do in my life. I'd rather die right now than harm some kids. So at this point, I literally just start rolling back at like 0.5 miles an hour. And the mom starts screaming bloody murder like she's being killed. She's like, oh my God, you're trying to run over my kids. I literally hit the brakes, and then she grabs her kids all dramatically and pulls them off to the side like she just saved their lives. And then she runs over and she's acting like she's hiding him. At this point, I'm like, okay, if this was going on for like the past 2 minutes, why hadn't you taken those kids already and fucking hid them inside the building or something? Why are you having them involved in the whole situation? Now, mind you, they're all drunk as shit and they have their kids there. I'm the only sober person there, and I'm the only one thinking in my head, okay, I don't want to shoot guns in front of kids and traumatize them for life, even though they're watching their parents engage somebody who they were best friends with and would shoot Nerf guns with, because his dad, I would have Nerf battles with them and their father and all this, because, they got Nerf battles with their dad and stuff. We'd be in the backyard shooting Nerfs and stuff. Anyway, it was just stupid shit. And thinking, okay, I don't want to create orphans. I don't want to do any of this crazy shit. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to roll backwards super fucking slow. She's screaming. So now it's clear behind me. I back up at like 3-4 miles an hour. Now, where on my property, I have this crane I'm using to fix shit. And the big boom for the crane was parked on the side of the road. Well, as I was backing up, I was trying to look around me. I wasn't going straight, and I almost backed into the crane. So now, in Washington State, it's a flea state, right? This is how stupid the laws are. And this is how my mind was working, because I've read through these books a million times. If I go forward at all, it's re-engaging. Now, mind you, they've re-engaged me 3 times, but still, I'm worried, like, okay, now if I go forward towards them at all, they're going to consider that re-engaging. So I roll my window down, and I start yelling, hey, you guys need to get off my property, because they're all still standing there, like, walking towards me down the driveway, like, to my house. And I'm like, okay, the last thing you need to do is come to my house. So I roll my window down, and I'm like, you guys need to get off my fucking property. If you guys aren't off my property when I come back here, there's going to be fucking issues. And instantly they start stumbling over each other. They get in their fucking vehicles. They get in their fucking, and as they're getting in their vehicles, I go forward like a foot, and then I back straight down the driveway. I go to my house. And I get to my house, I'm like, holy fuck, what just happened? Now I'm like, okay, we'll handle this shit internally. Because it's the country, we're in the middle of nowhere, there's literally a town of 1,000 people is the closest town. There's no reason to sit here and create all this nonsense drama. Everybody was just drunk, let's let bygones be bygones. Now a month goes by, like a whole ass month goes by, and I'm like, okay, they're all out there growing, doing their thing, I'm still helping with the water, literally like in communication with people still, like, okay, like nothing happened. And then all of a sudden I get a call one day because my fucking name and number's on the front gate. And they're like, hey, this is Officer blah blah. Is this blah blah blah? I'm like, yeah. They're like, can you come out to the front gate? We have some paperwork for you. I was like, what the fuck do they mean paperwork? So I call my attorney. I'm like, hey, the officer just called me. He got paperwork for me. He's like, oh, I've heard that before. It's probably anti-harassment order. I'm like, anti-harassment order for what? He's like, well, he's like, the situation. I was like, okay, well, they didn't do anything. And he was like, well, I didn't think anything was gonna happen. So at that point, we go and I go to the front gate. I go and say, okay, hey, what's going on? And they hand me this paperwork. It's like 4 people. So there was 5 people involved. 4 of them filled out anti-harassment orders against me. A 5th person did, who wasn't even involved in the situation, but just came up with a bunch of outlandish stories from over the years. I have all the paperwork still, all the fucking outlandish shit. I mean, they called me a neo-Nazi. They said I was fucking would do Heil Hitlers and stuff. They said I pointed guns at people all the time. Like, it was some crazy shit that they were able to get away with. Anyway, they wrote 5 fucking, because it took them a month to come up with these stories. Now, what was the nail in the basket for them was they cooperated. See, their stories were, even though they had a month to come up with them, they still didn't get their story straight. Now, if you read through it, half of them say I was disarming myself, and half of them say, oh, he never said that. And it's like, okay, well, now you're conflicting stories, because I literally said, I'm disarming myself. I'm literally, okay, I'm taking my weapon off. I'm going to disarm myself. As I'm doing that, I'm putting my gun on the fucking ground. I get tackled by somebody. I never once fucking was pointing my gun at anybody. Literally fucking putting my head towards the ground. How is that a threat, right? Like, oh, I'll put my gun down. Let's fight this out. Or let's, do whatever you want to wrestle us out. Because even when they were attacking me, I don't throw fists. There's no point in throwing fists when I know, hey, they're just drunk as shit. I can try to disarm and shit. So now at this point, I'm like, okay, what the fuck's going on? So, sorry, I'm trying to get my train of thought. I don't like to pause and do all these clips. I want you guys to get the whole raw edited thing, so I'm not trying to make this all sugar sweet. And so at this point, I'm like, okay, so I read through this, a bunch of nonsense. Okay, they don't want me to come within 500 feet of them, whatever. Okay, well, hang on. 500 feet of them, that means I can't access part of my own property because they're legally growing on my property. So that means if I can't come within 500 feet of their workplace or where they are, if they're on their property working, I can't come within 500 feet of that. That means I don't have access to my own property now. My own property, I don't have access to. So at this point, I'm like, okay, this is ridiculous. Like, I'm not going to have access to my own property. So I'm like, whatever. So I go home, I read through it all, talk to the attorney. He's like, yeah, no big deal. I'll show up with you in 2 weeks, whenever that court hearing is, and we'll get this thing squashed. No big deal. So I throw it down. I'm like, go back to playing Xbox, being lazy. Just chilling, hanging out. Now, all of a sudden, I'm like, okay, let me read through this again. So I go to the very back, and on the back, there's like a fucking sticky note, or like, it's like a little piece of paper like that big. It was like a sticky note. And on it said, you have 24 hours to turn in your firearms, and if you do not comply, you get charged with a felony offense. And I was like, what the fuck? What? Sorry, excuse my French, but what do you mean charged with a felony offense? I haven't even done anything. I haven't been to court. I haven't done it. So I got to turn all my guns in 24 hours? What? Well, it didn't even say, it said weapons. So I'm like, okay, holy crap. So I go grab all my bows, I grab all my knives, I grab all my firearms. I'm on the phone with my attorney. I'm like, what do I do? This is totally unconstitutional. I haven't even been a day in court yet, and all of a sudden they're taking all my firearms over something that somebody wrote down on a cocktail napkin. Like, what is this? He's like, you've got to comply. That's the way the state is. I'm like, okay, fuck. So I go, I get all my stuff up, I haul my ass down to the police station. I got a big old box of goddamn knives and katanas and ninja swords and giant ass swords I collect, because I just like collecting shit, you know. I like firearms and swords and medieval stuff, and you know, I'm into the age. I like smoke meets history and guns, you know. That's just you get 30, you hit 30, and that's what you like. Anyway, so I'm hanging out. Or not hanging out. So I'm dropping all this stuff off, filling all the paperwork out, doing all the serial numbers, making sure everything's tracked, because in my mind, I'm like, okay, this is the last time I'm ever going to see these firearms. I'm like, great. I spent years collecting all these firearms. They're going to end up just crushed in a damn pile, or someone's going to fucking steal it or some shit like that. I was like, this is just nonsense. I was so pissed. But I'm like, oh, I got to abide by the law. I'm not going to be that guy who's like, oh, when I get red flag, I'm going to stand on my door and fight off the police. No, you're not. You're not going to do that. You're going to pack your shit up and you're going to go drop it off and fight this shit legally, because the last thing you want to do is destroy your entire livelihood over the actions of a few dumbasses who are just using the legal system to their benefit. Now, knowing in my mind, I was like, okay, this is my first run-in with the law. This is the first time I'm ever going to court. I trust the legal system. I 100% trust the legal system. So, hanging out, I get my court date. I turn on my firearms, get my court date. They're like, okay, hey, you show up in 2 weeks. So at this point, my attorney's like, hey, I'll go in for you. You don't need to show up there, because I was too nervous. I didn't know if I was supposed to go in there or not because of the anti-harassment order. My attorney was like, well, I'm not 100% sure. I know it's a court building, but the way the laws have been lately, I don't know if they will try to get you in trouble for showing up when there's a 500-foot no contact order. So I'm like, okay, I'll just chill in the vehicle over here across the street, and then I'll let my attorney go in for me. My attorney goes in. The judge apparently didn't like that, the fact that my attorney went in for a civil suit. So whole issue with this, and let me remind you, it's a civil suit, right? This isn't a criminal suit. This is a civil suit. So I've already turned my firearms in and been charged and been threatened with the felony over a civil suit, right? So this went from he said, she said shit to where, oh, you can't use that. You know, it's he said, she said. There's only 50%. I think they said you have to have over 50% of guilt or whatever, or over 50% guilt in order to get convicted or whatever for the judge. And it was stupid shit. And like 95% for murder convictions and stuff. So like with civil suits, it's 55%. And so at this point, I'm like, okay, so now it seems like the odds are kind of stacked against me. So my attorney goes up there and the judge goes, okay, where's your defendant? He's like, okay, he's out in the parking lot. Wasn't sure if he needed to show up. Okay, well, we're just going to go ahead and go through with it. And they're like, if the defendant was here, it seems like he's the one who could have put the order through and not them, but because he's not here, I'm going to put their order through. My attorney's like, what? So you just said that he had a case, they don't, but you're going to put their order through anyway. So now at this point, I get one more court date to like verify everything and do like all cross the T's, dot the I's, or dot the T's and cross the I's, however you want to say it. And so we got one more court date to show up, defend myself, and do like this final, like, you know, hey, here's everything that's going on. So right now there's like an anti-harassment one that goes through for like a month or two until this next court date. And that finalizes it for a whole year. So at this point, I go up with my attorney. He's like, okay, we got this in the bag. It shouldn't be an issue. Obviously, we've got plenty of witnesses on our side, even though this isn't a thing. Like normally people don't use attorneys for this thing. Well, I'm like, listen, they threatened me with a felony. I'm using an attorney. I don't care if the judge gets pissed off or not. I need to make sure that I'm doing everything I legally can to fight this, because this is not constitutional. The whole time, I was like, this is 100% unconstitutional. They've already taken my firearms from me without ever having a day in court prior to that. I had to turn all my stuff in and get faced with a felony. So it's like, literally, this isn't just a civil case. This is more than a civil case, but they're using that as just a cover so they can do all this kind of nonsense to me. I saw through the bullshit. Sorry, excuse my French, or however you want to say it. So my attorney, he's talking to them. They go, okay, cool. So the next court date. So we show up. I have a bunch of witnesses on my side. They have a bunch of witnesses on your side. The whole courtroom's filled. It's like a movie, right? You know, it's something you see out of My Cousin Vinny. Everybody's just there. The whole town, 1,000 people, is like, oh my God, look what's going on at the courthouse. So the whole place is packed. They make us the Larry Laska. It's a civil suit. So there has to be a bunch of other people in there too doing their suit stuff too. So they go through, do all their stuff, DUIs, all speeding tickets, stuff like that. Then they get to us, and there's just, the whole room goes just dead quiet. Everybody's like, okay. Now the judge goes, okay, and lets them all go ahead of me. So they go and just speak all this nonsense, calling me a neo-Nazi, calling me just a doomsday freaking prepper dude who just wants to kill everybody. Just all this outlandish nonsense about me with zero proof aside from just he said, she said bullshit. And I'm sitting here just like, whatever, I'm going to keep my mouth shut because that's what you're supposed to do, and just shut the fuck up about it, and then when it's my turn to talk, I'll defend myself. So now at this point, all these people have gone about, even like the 4 people who came against me, or 5 people, plus, people who had nothing to even do with the situation were brought up as witnesses. So now it's my turn. I'm like, okay, cool, I got my witnesses here, I got myself, everybody on my side is a very well-mannered person, we got this in the bag. So now I say, okay, go ahead, stand up, it's your turn. So I walk up, stand up, my attorney's up there, and they go, okay, Mr. Blah, 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 say your 2 cents. So I get maybe 3 sentences in, and the judge says, okay, I've heard enough. And I'm like, what? And the judge is like, yeah, okay, I'm going to go ahead and put this order through for a year, and that's going to be the end of it. And my attorney's like, wait, what's going on? Like, we've had no attempt. Like, you let all these people go up against in front of us, and he only got to say 3 sentences, and now we have no chance to even defend ourselves. And literally, the judge stands up. Remembering this right, literally stands up and is mid-talking to because you still have all this stuff to do afterwards. The attorney's got to do with the judge, do all this kind of back and forth stuff with the court attorney or the court correspondent, the little person there on the side, not the person typing, but the other person who's like the secretary for the judge. And they're like, the judge is like, no, I've heard enough. I'm leaving, and literally gets up and just leaves the fucking room. And everybody's just like, even the freaking bailiff was like, that is what? And so you can see the person on the left of her was just like kind of baffled, like, what do I do now? So my attorney was like, hang on, just chill, hang on, I don't know what's going on. So he walks over and goes and talks to the not the typewriter, but the secretary. He's like, hey, what is going on? I don't remember what they said back and forth. And he comes up and he's like, I guess that's it. We gotta leave. And so we walk out, and I'm just baffled at this point. I'm like, are you kidding me? Did that really just happen? I'm This is a joke, right? Is Ashton Kutcher going to come out and kick me in the nuts and say, I punked you, here's all your guns back, ha ha ha. No, it didn't happen. I walked out down those steps totally defeated as a man, thinking to myself, holy crap, how can I ever trust the court system again? Like, they literally didn't give myself any time to even defend myself. I wouldn't even care if they would have said, okay, we're going to put this through. It was the fact that they didn't even let me talk. Like, I got 3 sentences and didn't even get to the point to where I explained the situation, to defend myself, saying, hey, I was saying I was fleeing. I never even got to say that. They literally, the second I said, and my buddy had tackled me, oh, that's it, I'm done, I don't want to hear anymore. I was like, what? You're not going to let me actually say my side of the story? I thought I had my ability to do that. So my attorney's like, okay, well, we can go through the appellate process. And I'm like, great, how much is this going to cost? Well, it's not cheap. Okay, cool. Well, it's like $800 for the first part, and like another $1,200 for the next part. It was a $30,000 process. So we go through the whole process. I said, screw it, let's fight this. I don't care if I got to bring it to the Supreme Court. I don't got to care if I got to sell all my licenses. I got to sell all my freaking vehicles. If I got to sell all my freaking clothes or whatever. I don't have my firearms anymore. I don't got that. I can't sell those. I can't even say, hey, well, okay, how about I sell my firearms then in exchange for not having them? I'll just fucking sell them and just take the cash, and then we'll just sell, hey, bygones be gone. Oh, nope, we don't want to do any of that. I'm like, okay, whatever. So you guys just get to keep them for a year, and then I get to, it's not even like, okay, now it's done, a year, and then we get to go and talk about it again for them to bring all that nonsense up again for the judge to make it go for a whole nother year. So at this point, now mind you, this whole court part took an extra like 6 months to get to that point to where the judge finally said, okay, hey, we're going to make this permanent, because every time we would try to meet up, it was like, this was happened mid-COVID. Literally the middle, like COVID literally happened, like my firearms got taken, and then not even a month later, COVID happened. COVID happens, I have no firearms, BLM is burning the whole country down, and I'm sitting here like, holy shit, what the fuck's going on? This isn't happening, right? And as this is all going on, they go ahead and use COVID as an excuse not to show up for the court dates. They, oh, well, there's a COVID, I can't make it out there, blah, 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 so we're going to push the court date back, push the court date back, push the court date back. So now at this point, it's been like 6 months, we get to the point, all this goes by, like, okay, the order gets put through, like, permanently, okay, you have a whole year with no firearms. So now at this point, if you go for another year from now, it's literally 12 plus 6 is 18, so 18 months, I'm not going to have any firearms. I'm like, holy crap, like this got extended way longer than I anticipated. And plus it could go on the rest of my life. Like I'm screwed. I'm never going to be able to own a firearm again. So we go through the appellate process, which is a long process. First, it gets kicked back to the same judge. So the same judge gets to see the same case again and determine if they want to change their outcome. And the same judge says no. So now it goes to 3 different judges. Now at this point, it's been like 6 months. It's been back and forth. You know, we gotta send this paperwork, send that paperwork, send this paperwork, send that paperwork. It is a long process. It's not a speedy process at all like they say it should be. So as we go forward through this whole process, we finally get to the Washington State, because the appellate court is like 3 judges that sit in front and say yes or no. Well, Washington State Superior Appellate Court, where I don't know how to word it. I'm not an attorney. I'm not educated. That's why I hired the attorney. But it gets to the point to where the appellate court sits, it's like 3 judges sit by and they look at it and they say yes or no. Now at this point, the 3 judges, if I'm not mistaken, unanimously decide that it was unconstitutional and the order needs to be reversed. And at this point, I get that kicked down from my attorney, and the attorney says, okay, hey, the judge needs to release your firearms now. Okay, great. So we send the paperwork to the judge's office, and the judge doesn't release my firearms. Now at this point, the judge sets another court date. Now I'm like, okay, obviously it's just like a cross the T's and dot the I's situation. My attorney shows up, because at this point I'm like, I don't need to be there. I don't even want to see the judge ever again after that situation. I don't want to even be in that courtroom. I'm just send my attorney. It's fine. I've already paid him 30 grand at this point, or it was like 25 grand at this point. He needs to go ahead. He's just going to go handle this shit. Just show up, grab the paperwork, be done. He shows up, and apparently she didn't like that, and now there was something wrong, and now we had to have another court date. So now it got pushed back even farther. Now the court date finally happens, and the judge had to reluctantly say, okay, fine, and had to release all my firearms to me, reverse all the orders and everything. Now at this point you think, okay, next day he got his firearms back. Nope. It took like 3 or 4 more months for me to get my firearms back because of COVID. They kept using COVID as an excuse. Oh, we can't have anybody show up to get your for you to get your guns because of COVID, and we don't want to risk transmission. And I'm like, they are firearms stored in a safe. Just open the safe up, put them on a table with the paperwork. I'll sign that stuff, and we'll be good to go. That's it. Nope, sorry, we can't do that. Like nobody even has to touch me. They could be 10 feet away, and it's a small town. We know each other. Hey, Bob. Hey, Joe. Hey, Jim. We all know each other. Nope, sorry, we can't do that. Okay, whatever. So at this point, I'm like, cool. So the courts not only have released my firearms to me, but now the police station is not releasing to me, or because the police station and courthouse is the same thing. I'm like, all right, cool. So at this point, it's like 19, like, okay, so I remember took a total of 18 months for me to get my firearms. So if I'm not mistaken, it was like 12 months of litigation, because it literally, which was the funny part was, the order was for a year, but it took 18 months of litigation for the order and everything for me to get my firearms back. So what was crazy was the fact that I was fighting for my guns, and all of that is longer than the order was for to go through. If I would just shut up and just bent the knee and just took it up the rear end, I probably would have had my guns back faster, or they would have just continued extending it. And I wasn't willing to take that risk. And that's what, well, if you just suck it up, you'll get them back in a year. No. That's the possibility of getting them back in a year. I ain't taking that chance. I didn't do anything wrong in the first place. I'm not accepting defeat. So at this point, 18 months has gone by. So it's like 6 months of litigation, then like another fucking 4 or 5, 6 months of nonsense, and then like another 4 or 5 months back and forth. It's 18 months total, but I'm iffy on the months of each stage. So to get to the final point, they're like, okay, sweet. Hey, I called them literally once a week, every week for months. I'm like, nope, I'm going to be that guy. I don't give a shit if they want to block me or not. Those are my firearms. I want them back. I call every day, or not every day, once a day, once a week for a fucking, until they give them my guns back. So that was like probably 30 times I ended up calling them. They finally were like, okay, we'll release your firearms. Come ahead and show up, come on down and load them all up. I literally drive on down thinking, okay, finally, they're going to have like, you know, all this special stuff out so they can finally release my firearms because it's mid-COVID right now and everybody's in lockdown. Literally show up and they just put them on the table and they have all my paperwork there and I just double-check serial numbers, sign the paperwork, and load all my guns up and I leave. 15-minute process. Why couldn't it happen 5 months prior to that? That was my biggest question. It pretty much seemed like they were just holding me up just to screw with me the whole entire time, which pissed me off at the end because I really had respect for the police, especially out here in these small towns. But after that situation, it threw me for a loop because at this point, I'm one part of the community. Like you can see my other videos. I help the community. I drive my vehicles out to go hang out with the community so people can see them and explore and, enjoy everything I have, because it's not, we live on this planet together, so we should all share everything. Now, I'm not a communist hippie. I think you should work for what you got, but if you have the ability to, share a little bit extra, donate to some charities you believe in, or go out and, hey, if you got a big ass mud truck, go out to the dunes and let other people hang out and see it and give them a ride in it. Don't just use it just for yourself, right? What's the fun in that? What's the fun of owning a Lamborghini or a jet if you're the only one sitting in it? I don't know. That's just my opinion. So I don't own anything like that, because I'm so rich and famous, I could own that stuff. Yeah. No. But yeah, so that's sort of my story. And the whole reason I'm doing this is because I've seen so many situations where people are talking about red flags and like, oh, this isn't going to happen. That doesn't happen. It happens. All right. I'm a business owner. I haven't had a speeding ticket in 10 years. Oh, plus, I don't remember the last speeding ticket I had. I mean, nothing. Clean ass background. I passed the FBI background check, because when I had to get my license, I had to get an FBI background check. Passed that. And yet I'm the one who had everything stripped from me and treated like a complete criminal. And this is the kicker. This is what threw me off, was my attorney told me, hey, by the way, because you live in Washington State, you're treated guilty before innocent, so you need to prove your innocence. I was like, wait, what? They're like, yeah, you need to prove that this didn't happen and that this situation, because a firearm was involved, you're guilty. I was like, we're in America, right? This is America, right? I thought we live in America. This is America, right? He's like, no, this isn't this. He's like, I wish I could say, but laws have changed enough to where the situations aren't like they used to be. So at that point, I had to get as much as I could to figure out the situation. Luckily, in the end, I succeeded. But my biggest thing is, and this happened to somebody who didn't have deeper pockets or the ability to go and pay an attorney or had an attorney on standby, they're screwed. They would have been a year, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years without firearms, even longer, depending on how long the judge would have continued to push it through. And in the state I live in, you don't even have to pass the bar exam to become a judge or to become an attorney. And the big kicker about the judge too, the judge apparently passed her, however you become a judge online, or judge exam, or bar exam or whatever, she passed all that online, and she never once practiced as an attorney, not a single day as an attorney. She went from straight being a civilian to a judge. And that just, after that whole situation, it just made me realize you need to watch what you say, because even the randomest person on the planet can go and file an anti-harassment order against you, and they check that one little box, do you believe this person is a danger and shouldn't own a firearm? They click yes to that box, then you legally no longer have rights to any gun that you own, and the police, if you don't comply with that 24-hour notice, they're going to come kick your door in and take you for everything you have. So be aware and be careful, everybody. As much as I'd love to say we have the freedom of speech, don't go around starting shit with random people, your neighbor or whatever, because these laws are not in our favor, especially for gun owners. We need to be cautious. They are trying to paint us all with a red brush. We are not. A lot of us don't really give a shit about anything aside from just going to work, coming home, and have a nice range to target practice on. That's pretty much what I like to do. I like to take my little 22 out and do some plinking every day, hit a few targets there, here and there. Nothing crazy, it's just a little hobby of mine. Go fishing, do this, do that. Everybody likes to do their thing. That's just my thing. And if you enjoy that hobby, please be safe out there. And all I can say, if you have anything that happens with firearms, whether it's going to take a hit or not, get an attorney. Do not fight this on your own. I know how much you think you might know the law. Get an attorney. If I would not have an attorney, I would have been screwed. It saved my ass. It took 18 months and $30,000 of litigation, but it saved my ass. And the only thing I can say is, I wish there were ways where I could recoup some of the losses I had from that situation. 18 months of not being able to access part of my property, just the mental drain on me, and thinking every day, because even the guy who my best friend who assaulted me and the other people threatened my life multiple times. The dude was literally talking about how I could dome you with an arrow and nobody would even hear it. And I'm sitting here talking about how he's got AR-15s to scratch off serial numbers and stuff. And I'm like, bro, this guy has literally said this stuff out loud to me multiple times, but I had no evidence of it. So I never went out and, said any of that stuff or even pushed the rumors, even though I knew that. He would freaking go out and do outlandish stuff that I don't snitch, even if the dude screws you over. The point is, why would I bring that up in court when I got no evidence of it, right? There was no point in throwing that and trying to fucking sit here and do a bunch of nonsense. I just told my side of the story. Anyway, it's these kind of people that you need to watch out for, and even it's hard to tell. You know, honestly, it could be your best friend one day and your enemy the next. So trust yourself, hire an attorney, and make sure you always save up. If you're a firearm owner, save up at least 10 grand at minimum for attorney fees, just in case a situation happens. Because the last thing you want to do is be stuck out in the open with no defense. So stay safe out there, owners, and make sure you guys always practice firearm safety. Live every day better than the last. And God bless the United States, regardless of what God you believe in. I don't care whether it's Jesus, Buddha, Hinduism, whatever. But you got to believe in something to get you through the day. If we don't, then that's where we lose ourselves. Anyway, stay safe.